Hello there. So what we have in front of us today is Master Brass. This is a brass library, orchestral brass library made by Auddict. That's Auddict. The website's on the screen. This is a combo of horns, trombones, trumpets, and tuba. They describe it as the ultimate orchestral brass library. It weighs in at about 28 gigabytes in total. And it loads individually as octahorns, that's 8 French horns. We've got 6 trombones here, 6 trumpets here, and I believe it's 3 tubas. Yeah, 3 tubas here. Okay, I bought this in the sale recently, but it retails at around £300 for the entire library. It was on offer recently for about £70, which is when I got it. But you can buy each of these instruments separately for around £90. But look out for sales because it's quite a good library, and it is nice to complement some of the other libraries that you might have in your collection. This is orchestral brass. Don't be under the illusion that you can use any of this for anything but orchestral use. Certainly not for jazz or pop. The trumpets and trombones really don't work as a brass. Pop brass anyway. So what we're going to go through is just the basic layout of the interface using octahorns as our example. I'm going through different mic positions, the reverb and things like that. And then I'm going to play you through some of the sounds that come with this. The only disadvantage that I've discovered is its colossal use of memory. You cannot load the individual instruments. I love Spitfire Audio, I love East West, I love all these other instruments, and one of the reasons I love using them is if you just want a non-legato polyphonic trumpet, let's say, you just load up the individual polyphonic trumpet. It uses maybe a couple of 100 megabytes and you're done, maybe less than that. This, if you want a non-legato French horn, sadly you have to load the 0.9 gigabytes of French horns. It would be good if they could give these as different individual patches as well. It's a bit of a pain and a lot on your resources, but if you've got a Big Mac, if you've got a large computer and it doesn't really worry about RAM, you can load them up anyway. There is no way of purging that I can tell here. You can, obviously, on the purge button, purge all samples and reload all samples. That doesn't really help when you can't select or deselect them. Anyway, so we'll start with the basic interface. Here you've got, if I just click on octahorn, there we are. Here what you've got is your articulations, and for the horns we've got a no legato, a legato, an octave legato, fast legato, stutter, and then we've got these lovely chords, and I think these are brilliant. We've got we've got crescendo and then decrescendo chords, and we've got staccato. You've got a selection of microphone positions. In case you're wondering, there are 7 different microphone positions. We'll go through them a bit in a minute. And we've got some reverberation, which is in addition to the mic positions, which is kind of slightly odd. I don't know where this was recorded, but clearly it wasn't a particularly lush natural reverb, so they've added some extra reverb just for good measure. The control on this is very simple. There are key switches down the bottom here, so by hitting these buttons you can switch, here we are, from these bottom ones. You can switch between the different key switches. It's interesting, they've labelled these little ones red and these little ones green, so you can separate between the legato and longs essentially, and the chord stutters and the shorts over here. I'm assuming this works on these native instrument control keyboards with different colours as well, just so you can feel happy there. So that's the articulations on the horns. It's controlled using the mod lever for dynamics and CC11 for kind of general expression, although CC11 is quite literally just volume as far as I can tell. There are no filters or anything clever on there. So I've assigned a pedal so I can do polyphonic playing without having to grow another arm. So we've got pedal controlling the mod lever here. It's not a bad library. It's a good sound. I'll just play you some of the horns now through their entire dynamic range. I'm going to play chords, maybe 2 or 3 sounds, just so you can get an idea. So it copes quite nicely with fairly brash, in-your-face brass. It also copes quite nicely with quiet. Bear in mind, this is 8. That's 8 French horns. So 8 French horns, even when playing very quietly, actually have quite a lot of volume. So be careful about that, just one note. Even in pianissimo there still has quite a lot of presence to it. And obviously if you play chords, you're 8 plus 8 plus 8. There are no divisi or anything clever going on under the bonnet in this plugin. So we've got the no legato, which was the polyphonic one. And obviously you can hammer as many notes as you fancy. I do like it. In the default sound that you load up here in the new version 1.1, it gives you a max polyphony of 2000. That's quite interesting. Legato, let's switch using the mouse. Gives you a fairly slow but quite nice controllable legato. So it's not too slow, not too quick. You can't do those lovely, great big slow rips up from note to note like you can on some of the other libraries. But as a slow legato goes, it's pretty good. One thing I really love is this octave legato. So you've got the 2 octaves in there. Of course, the range is cut because you can't go up that high with the upper octave. But that gives you a great melodic line for the kind of soaring strings and French horn duos there. The fast legato is quite interesting. Very short. So if you play really quick. Okay, so you can see here, fast legato only applies to the first of the notes that you play. So you'd have to switch to it down here. You'd have to switch to it each note you want to do, so it's just the first note that you play. So that's a little bit weird to control, but you can see it's got quite a fast transition on that one. So that's your legatos and your non-legatos. That's fairly simple. Over on the side here, now you've got the stutters. These are absolutely fantastic. So turn the volume up to max. That's just great. So it's just a da-da, 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 which is really nice, really good for those kind of big kind of Imperial March type sounds. You can hear actually the FFs, the kind of the mezzo forte, the super forte, really aren't that brash compared to some other libraries like Spitfire Audio, which have a really harsh forte. This is it's actually quite pleasant, not too gritty, so that would fit in quite nicely in the mix. So that's the stutter, and then underneath there we've got the crescendo and the decrescendo chords. The chords are fairly straightforward. They've got 2 inversions in major, and then we've got inversions in minor. These are not legato chords, so you can't, as you can in some of the cine samples and other libraries, do a nice legato phrasing between chords. But as you heard there, the actual chords themselves, if we just go for a D major, are really nicely recorded. And you can actually, if you listen really carefully, you can hear each of the 8 horns going up through and then back down again, so that's really nice. So that's the crescendo, and then the decrescendo chords are the same but just going backwards. to remember where the notes are, but you can see that's actually going to be quite a nice thing to have at the end of a big piece, just a single note, just to get that over and done with. Of course, you could do that simply by going to the no legato, putting your foot on the pedal and going, and then doing a decrescendo on the pedal. But actually the whole dynamics are kind of really quite pretty on those chords. And then right at the end here, you've got the staccato. If I would design this, I would probably put the staccato next to the longs here, the no legato, and had shorts and longs on key switches next to each other. It's a little bit awkward having them almost an octave apart. In fact, exactly an octave apart. But anyway, that's the way they've done it. So this are the staccatos. These are velocity sensitive. All the others work through the dynamics. These ones are velocity sensitive. I'd say that's staccatissimo rather than just staccato. But anyway, it's a good short sound. And fairly good French horn sound. Obviously, it is a French horn, it's just well recorded. Okay, so going back to the legato, non-legato, let's now look at the different microphone positions. We've got Decca side, Decca middle, so that's the Decca tree at the sides and the middle. We've got a flanking pair. We've got the woodwind spots. This has been the subject of much discussion on various internet forums. We've got the LDC spots, ribbon spots, and a room pair. So let's turn them all off and then listen to each one. This is the Decca sides. So they are fairly close. They sound quite warm, nice stereo field. The Decca middle. Okay, so they're pretty slap bang in the middle, a fairly monophonic field with a little bit of spread. That would be the reverb, so let's turn that off. Yes, that's the centre of the Decca tree, that's quite a nice sound. Mix those two together, a little bit less of that one, you get a nice stereo spread without too much mud. The flank pair should be stereo. Again, quite close, not a great stereo spread, but kind of an intermediate spread. Then you've got these woodwind spots. Okay, so what they've done is they've put the orchestra together on stage. They've got the horns to play, and the trombones and the trumpets and the tubas, and they've put microphones where the woodwinds would be, and they've recorded the brass where the woodwinds would be, so they'll mix with woodwinds. It kind of makes sense, you know, if you're recording a full orchestra and you've got woodwinds playing, you will record some of the brass with the woodwinds mics. That's the way it works. And these are fairly subdued, distant mics. They're not mics I tend to load very much, so let's turn them off. You know, on the off chance you are actually recording a full symphony orchestra on your computer and you want the advantage of those woodwind mics, I can imagine... Whoops, I've just moved octave horns out of the way. What am I doing? There we are. I can imagine that's quite fun to have, but let's not worry about them for the moment. The LDC spots... So they're slightly to the left. You've got the ribbon spots. Centrally placed, dry. And then you've got a room pair at the back, and you can hear a little bit of natural ambience there. So to be honest, Decca sides, bit of Decca middle, and room, pretty much just turn these all the way down just so you forget about them. Actually sound pretty good. Just play with the modulation lever. That's not bad at all. Because they've recorded it in quite a dry auditorium, we can shove a bit of reverb on here. There's no real settings for the reverb. I've done it again, sorry. There we are. there's no real settings. You just wind it up, and there it is. And you wind it down, and there it is in the background. So live with it or live without it. I tend to turn off the reverb completely and shove it through a convolution reverb outside of Kontakt, but that's your choice. So those are the mic positions for the octahorn. Let's get rid of the octahorn and bring up the trombones. So the trombones have a similar system. They've got legato, no legato, fast legato, and staccato now on the left-hand side of the window. They got flutter, rips, and then the chords. So let's just go through some of the no legato on the trombones. So there's a little bit of pitch funniness going on there. They're a nice enough sound. They sound like trombones. They fill the room quite nicely. And the no legatos have a good dynamic. A nice dynamic range. Legato trombones. They sound alright. Fast legato. There's some issues there with their scripting. I'm not a great fan of that one. Staccato. With the staccato with the trombones, there seems to be a switch between piano and forte, and there's no really big difference between the two. There's no blending between them, so it's a bit frustrating, but it's a nice enough sound. Flutter is fantastic, of course. In your face flutters there. The rips are good. What's missing in some of these samples as well, it seems to be release samples with the rips, for instance. If you release halfway through, it just kind of stops. If you let it get to the end, you end up with the release samples. So, can't see myself using that. I could see myself using that. So that's something you need to think about. The crescendo and decrescendo chords. They work in the same way as the octahorns. So they're the trombones, same kind of mic system for them and the same reverb. Let's move back onto the trumpets now. Let's scroll that down a little bit. So trumpets have got the most articulations with no legato. See, this is where this library lets itself down. I think the trumpets sound a little bit synthesized. That doesn't sound like trumpets to me. Sounds better down there. Legato. It gets some nice octave leaps there. There are some strange scripting issues going on there, but I guess you can work with them. And again, the fast legato seems to switch back to legato. Maybe this is a function I've not read in the manual, but that's quite interesting. You've got staccato. Which again is staccatissimo, frankly. Flutter's quite fun. What's a little bit frustrating is the flutter doesn't respond to any dynamics. It's all or nothing. And then you've got triple tongue. This is great fun. If I just turn up these, get rid of some of those. got to be very careful when moving these sliders. If you just miss one, you start moving the interface around. So just be careful with them. Black on black isn't a great idea. But here we are with the triple tongue. They are excellent. They are really, really good. So it's really annoying they've got the triple tongues. Compare that to the legato, no legato, static. They could have used that last bit of brass there on the triple tongue and made use of that and made a nice little marcato out of it. Maybe in the update they will do. Then you've got chords. Bit of pitch issue there. We got more chords. There's some interesting release samples going on inside there as well. And then last we got rips. Now that's odd as well. There's some odd release samples going on with the rips. When you release the note, it plays a release sample. They need to work on that. So we've got some bugs. This is version 1.1, maybe version 1.2 is on the horizon to clear all those bugs up. I'm glad I didn't pay full price for these. I would be complaining. So now we got the last in this, which is the tubas. Again, no legato, legato, staccato, chords, and rips. So pretty much the same as all the others. The tubas are actually really nice tubas. There are 3 playing in unison. Oh, sorry, I'm still on trumpets. Here we are. Now that's strange. There's some disk loading problems there, but that sorted itself out. So that is the no legato, legato tubas. They sound quite nice. Then staccato tuba. Again, I'm going with staccatissimo. I'm sticking with that. Tuba chords. If you want that kind of thing. And then rips. No release samples hovering around in there. So there's your library. Octahorns, trombones, trumpets, and tubas. I've loaded the version 1.1 with the latest upgrade on it. I'm going to pause this now and load the 1.1 without the latest and just see if that's any different. Okay, so I've loaded up the Trumpets 1.1. It's still loading on the screen, but just to confirm, these are the rips. And they have the same release samples. And the no legato brass still sounds like a DX7. So these are things I think need to be addressed by the manufacturers. It's not a great brass library. It's got really good features. I mean, some of the samples are fantastic. The triple tongue, the chords are great, the rips are great. The staccatissimo is very staccatissimo and could be really useful for rapid sessions, but it's lacking some refinement and needs some work, methinks. So pays your money, you pays your choice. You certainly, for the price, cannot get a full brass library at the moment. So, you know, it does offer a lot for its money, but there are some issues. So have a look, see what you think.